G'day and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro for their ongoing support in bringing you our live, or no, it's not live, but weekly Q&A. Tonight, we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Dan Matthews, or as many know him as Milo.
Milo will be picking who he thinks has asked the best question, and there are a few here, and they'll win a bag of Enduro high-energy food for working dogs with real kangaroo meat.
Hey, how you going?
Mate, going all right? How you fellas going?
Yeah, pretty good.
Good, thanks,
Right.
mate. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with us again tonight. We had a few issues there the other day, mate, so really appreciate you putting yourself out for us again.
That was a bit annoying, wasn't it? Take two. It cuts out tonight. We won't worry about it.
Nah, that's cool, mate. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, for those people out there that might not know you?
Yeah, right. Well, sort of grew up around Walker. Live in Woolbrook at the moment. Well, that's where I've lived for 17, 18 years. Grew up in Walker as a kid. Before that, I was in Uralla. Got my first dog when I was sort of about in year 5 or 6. So whatever age you are then, 11 or something like that.
Yeah.
We lived at a place at Uralla. There was a big woolshed there across the road from where we used to live, and there was 3 or 4 places there. They all used to bloody come there and shear and dose, and had a big dip in that there. So always was a lot of action. There wasn't too many weeks where there wasn't a bit of crutching going on or a bit of dosing or shearing. So I used to get there and watch these fellas work their dog. That's where I first got my passion for dogs. So used to watch these blokes work dogs, and I was amazed by it. That's something you could send, would go and bring something back to you. So anyway, showed a bit of keenness. This old fellow Max Brennan give me a dog. It was just a black barb, that's what they called it in them days. And so anyway, I had him, and I thought he was the greatest thing since sliced cheese. So I used to cart him everywhere. I had a little 10-speed race with a little bloody bread crate on the back. I used to cart him on that, because there wasn't a lot of stuff about them days. It was a couple of 2-wheel old ag bikes with the same little milk crate thing on the back, bread crate, and there was, I'd fill out a Land Rover and horses. That's all it was, sort of thing. So I done that, and I was doing a fair bit of trapping then, like trapping for skins. So I used to use him as a little trap dog and all that sort of thing. So I'd, set a rabbit trap, and I'd take out the loose jaw. So put it there with a bit of fresh dirt. So when he'd tread on it, just the other jaw would hit him and sort of give him a bit of a spook. So he was good. He'd find all where your traps and stuff were without getting caught. So I taught him a lot, I suppose, because it was your first dog. He just worked. He's just one of them dogs that you get in them days, they just go to work. Like, you can't find him these days as much, but he just went to work, didn't know what I was doing. Them other fellas get up, back, yell, swear a bit here and there, and they seemed to work. So I just copied them fellas doing that. He was my first real dog. I learned to get him working. So he'd back sheep, he'd work cattle, he'd catch a pig or whatever. He was good that way. Never forget the time, poor bugger. When the $2 coins come in, the $1 coins coming in, when they were trying to get rid of the notes.
Yeah.
I was there one day, and this old fellow owned the place, old Hector. He said, "You want to make a bit of gold, boy, over the school holidays?" He said, "You can go sucker bashing." I'm thinking, sucker bashing, shit, that's right up my alley. I said, "You don't have to worry about paying me. I'll do it for free." So I gets there and takes me dog, and I went to the wool shed that night, and I made this bloody pig dog collar up. I thought, right, well, I know they're only suckers, but the mother could come back,
Yeah.
So out of a bit old shearer bill, it was that bloody thick, and the dog couldn't even move his neck. That's how thick it was. Anyway, I gets there early in the morning. I said, "Whereabouts we going?" He said, "There's heaps of suckers, mate, above the wool shed, above the killing paddock there." He said, "All running up to the hill." He said, "There's plenty of them there." And I'm thinking, shit. Well, I was dreaming about it all night. I watched Razorback again. I'm thinking, I'll hit him in the dam. This is bloody great. So I gets down there in the morning. I gets up real early, and I gets to the dam. I walked around looking for tracks. Couldn't see nothing, a few rude tracks there. And I'm sort of sending this dog, all this sort of shit. And he's running up there like a bloody idiot, bouncing like a kangaroo. And he come back looking at me stupid. I'm going, I think there's got to be suckers here, somewhere. Anyway, I ended up going back to the killer paddock and getting the sheep in the corner. So anyway, I went and got him, took the pig dog collar off him, and old mate come up in his old bloody Datsun 180B, and he pulled up and he opened the back of his boot and he grabbed the bag and a couple of big mattocks out. And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I don't think there's any pigs here. I think they moved on." I said, "I've been around. There's no tracks. There's no wallers. There's not even any sows." He goes, "What?" And he gave me one of them real funny looks, and he grabbed this mattock out. And he grabbed this little tree and he went bang, and he said, "Sucker bashing, mate, like little trees, not bloody pigs." and I said, "Oh, well, you better pay me then." So that's how I started in dogs. That was my first dog I had. We moved to Walker, year sort of 7. So then I thought that's the only dog I had. We used to cruise about town and muck about with him. You could seal him on to people. He'd bite people and shit like that, you know. So he was just a good mate, really. Got out of working dogs a bit. Got into pig dogs. Had them little bull terrier things, you know. And I had to use that dog actually to find the pigs and bail them up. And then, like where I used to, you know, catch pigs up in the hills up here, it's in like snowgrass country and blackberries and stuff. And them little bull terriers couldn't get through. So, yeah, the old dog had to go and find them, bail them up. And then we just pick these little bull terriers up and cart them and then just chuck them on when we got there, sort of thing. That's how slow they were. But, so, got out of working dogs, got them, got back into working dogs, a little block in town. And a mate of mine, Trev McKinnon, he used to always come. We had a few killers about the place in town, and everyone wanted the grass chewed. So you put 2 sheep in here, 5 sheep in there. And it wasn't just a clean backyard. They were really, you know, the ones they couldn't mow. You know, there was old dead cars there and bits and pieces. So it was a sort of a special sort of job, you know. So mate of mine used to come in and get him in for me. And he said, "Oh, you want a dog to do this sort of shit with us?" I said, yeah, grab us a dog. So he gets us an old collie dog, and that's what started me back in doing that. And then there was a bloke named Mick Cross. I spent a lot of time with. He sort of half-bred me when I was a kid, and he was a drover. Anyway, he had a real handy dog called Toby, and he was an Elfenvale dog actually. But that's the first time I ever seen a dog like a real smart dog. Someone's trained a dog properly, like he could, you know, bring it 3 foot this way, walk it in, stop it. And I was up there shearing some goats for him once at Tenterfield, and he sent this dog up the side of the hill, and he started bringing him in and all that sort of stuff. And he's 2 foot this way, 2 foot that way, and bring him through a gate. And I thought, well, gee, that's amazing, you know. Anyway, I ended up dying, this fella, and before he's dead, I sort of said to him, I said, I'm buggered, you know, I'm dying. I said, no, you'll be right. I said, if you think about dying, you better will me that dog and that good horse. He said, righto. And that we never thought much of it. He died the next week, poor bugger. Anyway, weeks after, old Bill Crowley brings me I don't know if he banged the horse or the dog. He banged the dog up anyway, and he said, supposed to go to you, and this dog would have been 4 or 5 year old, I suppose. And yeah, he was good. Like, you'd get him on the ute, clear a fence, and like all them little paddocks around I had around town, like I'd done some showing off with him. Like, didn't know a lot, but yeah, I could show off with this dog. And that was me sort of start getting me working dogs. And another young fella, Matty Wilson in town, he had when he got some killers in for him one day, and he had this little Kelpie bitch. There, she was about 7 weeks old, and he was shearing at Ardlethan, and he got this little bitch. And when I got these killers in, I come through the fence and started working. So I sat the old dog, and I'm watching this work, and I thought, geez, that's a nice bloody bitch. I said, what are you doing with her? And he said, oh, and he's just going to use it for a bailer for pigs. I said, no, she's too good for that. I said, I'll grab it off you. So he gave it to me, and Johnny Peters and them fellas used to do a few little things. McDonald River Working Club, they had a little club about here at Woolbrook. Like, I wasn't riding the dogs then, but every month or two, they'd have a little training day somewhere. Like, you know, Johnny Peters was the main sort of fella in it. And we'd go there and we'd work a few dogs and stuff. Anyway, didn't know much about the, you know, breeding the dogs then. And he said, what's that little pup there? And I said, oh, I don't know. So I got it off Matt Wilson. He said, well, you have to find out a bit more than that. He said, she's a pretty nice bitch. So I had to ring Matt to get the phone number for this fella and fella who bred it, whatever. So it was by a dog called Phil's Creek Sam out of a Horton bitch. So anyway, I went back and told him the info. He said, yep, no, she's good. You know, keep her, don't wreck her. So I had her, and she went pretty good. So I had this old Toby, then I had her, and then I rang the bloke up, the shearer fellow in Ardlethan, and I said, mate, she's going good. He said, mate, I've got the sister over here if you want it too. He said, because, you know, I've got no work for it. And he even had a bloke shearing down this way, and he sent it down like, so I didn't have to do too much to get her, and she was a beauty as well. So I had the 3 dogs, and that's what sort of set me up and got me going like 20 odd years ago. So from then, and then I started on the parks. I was shearing before that. So I was shearing and roo shooting. That's all I was doing for a quid back then. Yep. And then, so into me pig dogs, and then sort of got into me working dogs then. So I left the pig dogs when I started having kids and stuff like that. Well, my missus started having kids. I was, you know, being a father. Couldn't go out as much. So I thought, I'll get into me working dogs. So they always sort of fascinated me, see. And like even when I was shearing, we'd go up places like around Walkery, because it's pretty heavy sheep country. And I remember Sweeney was there one day, and we drove in the driveway, and I could see this mob of sheep coming towards this gate. Anyway, there was this Reddentown Kelpie dog, and it got him to the gate, and we thought, oh, someone's lost the dog. And then it just sat behind him, you know, probably 600-700 years. And then he drives up a bit further, and there's a black and tan dog bringing a mob of sheep to a gate. And I said, oh, we better go up here and tell him something's going on. So he gets up there, and he's getting some lamb rings ready and some bits and pieces. And I said, Sween, there's some dogs into your sheep. He said, what colours? I told him. He said, no, well, that's good. He said, they're doing their job. He said, I'll get them later on. He said, they'll be right. And I thought, how can they do that? You know what I mean? Like he just sent them one dog, mustered the paddock, another dog this way, and that was back in then, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, gee, they're good dogs. And they were good dogs. They just weren't hard enough like when you got them later on for cattle, but, proper good sheep dogs. And I sort of got fascinated by that. And then I remember working on the parks, and there was a fellow called Jeff O'Keefe. And anyway, he had a bit of stuff, country down in the gorge. And I watched him one day, him and another fellow, old Maury, and I watched them working some cattle down there with dogs. And Jeff would have 12 or 13 dogs with him, and Maury might have had half a dozen. And I was on the side of a hill watching them work these dogs. And that fascinated me, how much control they could have over these dogs. Like this old fella, he'd send one here, one up the other side of the hill, sit in, and he'd ride up, half break them in, and he had, another dog to send up if he needed a bit more power, and he'd bring them back in, and then away he'd go, he'd get his mob, he'd put his lead dog out, and away he'd go and, take these scrubbers away. Anyway, so I sort of wanted to go with him, so I went with him and learned a lot, actually. Like I thought I knew a little bit, but knew nothing. So It was good to get in the bush with him and, do that sort of stuff and listen to his stories. And just amazed me how dogs could find cattle. Like I know pig dogs could find pigs. And anyway, I didn't realise the dogs I had, like with a bit of exposure, they sort of started doing it too. So I never forget the first time I was getting some cattle in and I was riding on the horse and having my 3 dogs with me and, working for the parks, like getting cattle out of the parks. Anyway, these dogs took off. I flat out, they went about a couple of crossings and up the other side, and I'm going, I don't know whether to call them or not. They could be chasing the pit. I just don't know. So I left them. Next thing they bring them on the cattle back, and geez, I was stoked, and I was away then. Like I was just So I was just happy of that. So then that's what I sort of selected for. Then like dogs that had worked in the bush and do that sort of stuff. They amazed me doing that. Like trialing's good too, but that's what really like amazed me. That sort of stuff. That's the real work out there.
Yeah. Just jumping in there. There's a question from Zach Eade. He's asking, how do you actually get your dogs to find cattle in the bush long distances away?
Well, it's having exposure to do it, of course. If they live in the backyard, they can't. But a lot of dogs will do it as long as they've got desire. That's the key thing, is desire. And dogs always use their nose. So it's just got to have that want. It's just like a pig dog. Some of them are only short range. Some of them really try and sense. So some dogs try to look and some dogs try to sniff. But most dogs, are better with their nose than their eyes. So just had them like how I used to train them. Well, them ones trained themselves, but I used to just let a few sheep go in my little training pen, like an acre beyond the house, and I'd let him go over the hill. And then I'd, have the scent there, and then I'd let the little pup go, and away he'd go over the hill, and it'd find the sheep. So you just give the whoosh, and away he'd go. And then after a while, you just get there and go, and they just go. The main thing is if they get down there a bit, and they get a bit lost with the little fellas, and they go 100 yards or something like that, and they're sort of circling and can't find them, and the sheep have sort of got going, go to where they are, push them again till they get down there, and then when they get down, they come all the way back to where you started from, and that gets them comfortable and bringing them back at distance. See? Mm-hmm. So that's what I sort of done with them. And if they know if work to find is to work, they just love it. Like most of them will do it actually. Like if you expose them to it and get them, some of them just don't like doing it because they've got no desire. But the ones with desire, they will do it.
Yeah. And off the back of that, there's a question here from Rick Freeman. How do you teach cast?
Well, I don't really teach cast at all. I just send them. That's their desire. Come back to desire again. You just give them a little whoosh, and they should just get cracking. You know what I mean? Like I've seen blokes send dogs just dry send them like a K, just and there's nothing there. I don't sort of do that. I make sure there's sign and stuff there. I don't actually sort of cast them. I send them or release them, I suppose you could say. Yeah. So years ago, I had my birds that touchy. If you get them a bit of rainforest, then bellbirds would send them. And away they go. But I had them pretty touchy back then. But you can get around in manufactured thing in a footy field or a trial ring, and you can sit them behind you and kick them out, like cast them around you. But I don't really worry about that too much. I just look for their natural instinct, desire again, and want to go. Like I like the dogs that'll go flat out. Then when they find their stock, flick out around them. Then that's what I sort of like in a dog. So I don't actually teach them their job. Their job is to go and get the stock. And if they're willing enough, they'll do it.
Actually, sorry, Laurie, you're all right?
There you go.
I was going to say, just on that, like, I've got a couple of young dogs here that I'll walk through a gate and they'll just look at me and kind of look at me, and then I'll look at them. And they'll kind of just like break out and follow a fence line and just go. And I've never taught that. That's just something these particular dogs have. But I don't make a noise. Was that something you would encourage, to make that noise, to make it kind of like a search?
Well, you do. You just put a command to the action. So if they're doing it anyway, if they're breaking out along the fence and picking their stock up, yeah, do that. I never ever send them on a direction. Like if you're down and you can see the cattle and you think they're going to go downhill, if you go send them that way, I want them to go that way if I can see the cattle. But if they're finding cattle, I want them to go straight like bullets, find them, get around them, and have the job done when I get there. So that's like teaching cat. Like you can teach it. All that stuff works. Like you're talking about going up the fence and everything like that. That all works while you got a fence and you got all that stuff there. But when you're out in the bush and there's like thousands of acres and you're only going along a creek or up a gully or something like that, there's none of that stuff. So they've got to get straighter. Like they'll go a fair way down there to find a fence, or they'll knock up before they find a fence, sort of thing. So you want them going on their scent. Really, you want them going. I've seen a lot of people that are pretty good with dogs, and they can send them like do a fence. But it depends how big your paddock is, I suppose. Sometimes it's inefficient because the sheep or the cattle could be 600, 400 meters just over in a gully, and that paddock might be 1,000 acres. By the time that dog goes right around, he's not even in touch with his stock anyway, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if a dog goes and wants to find cattle or find sheep or shows a bit of enthusiasm, I just whoosh.
Yeah.
That's all I do. Put a command to what he's doing.
If you had a dog that had a bit of shape, would you then try and straighten it up a bit?
Oh no, shit! They straighten themselves up. The distance will straighten them up.
Yep.
They start out all fancy, arcing out, but they can only arc out so far. Then they just go, where are we going? I don't try to fool around with them too much. I like them to stop, steady, left and right, sort of thing. I like to put manners. Manners is my biggest thing, I suppose. Do what I tell you to do when I want you to do it, sort of thing.
And how do you go about that with a young dog?
Well, it's just using the tools they got. They come with instinct. Like we can't put that in them, and we can't take it out of them. They come with it. They got eye. We can't bash the eye out of them or put eye in them. So they are what they are. You just observe them and go, "This is going to suit me." And all I sort of do is the Tony McCallum method. Is just if they go that way, put your command over. They go the way back. You put your hands up there and they steady up, steady. You put them up and they sit. And the best way to get a sit on a dog is if you put your hands up as he hits the ground. The best reward for him is to go back to work, send him again.
Yeah.
So that's the best reward for a stock dog anyway.
Yeah.
And while we're touching on reward there's a question here from Heath Shrimp. Hey, Milo, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is your bond with a dog? Thanks, Heath.
Very, very important. So you've got to get them at that right age. You've got to get them at that sort of 7 weeks. So it's just like in the wild, like your dingoes and your wolves and all that sort of stuff. Things that you look at when they're 3 to 4 weeks old, right? If we get there and clap our hands or throw a hat on the ground or something, and then little pups lie out and they go back to the kennel. Like for a while I just thought, nah, can't leave him, he's too weak, he can't handle it. But really, in the scheme of things, that's survival. That's instinct for them to survive. So they've got survival and instinct, and their instinct is when they're young is to survive. So what happens then is them ones that run back to the den, you want that at that age. You don't want that at 7 weeks old, but you want that at 3 to 4 weeks old. You want that, I've got to go, because out in their little den, an eagle could be coming or something else could be coming to get them. So they've got to be aware of surroundings and get going, because if they don't, they're dead. So the bond is very important. But at 7 weeks old, that's when the parents do the culling. See, so if you can leave your bitch in, like not all bitches do it, but 98% of them do it. If you can leave your bitch in a little bit longer with your pups, like 6 or 7 weeks old, and you give your bitch a bone, and then she'll do a lot of the chastising herself. So she'll get there and growl at the pups and grab one or two. So they start off with a little growl. The next thing's a bang. So the growls are warning, and it's only soft. We've got a job to hear it. And they grab them. The pup, they'll take offence a little bit. They'll always come back to the mum. They're not going to leave their mum. But if we do it to them, they'll leave us. So if your bitch can do a bit of that at the start, that helps you out later. So when you chastise them, when you put that little growl and grab them by the cheek, they're already used to that anyway. They're not going to take too much of offence. So at that 7 weeks old, that's when the wolves and the dingoes go, righto, we're heading this way 10 k's today. That's when the culling begins. They just got to follow, across the creek, over the driftwood, wherever they go. And if they don't, what happens to them? The mother never goes back and gets them. They just peel out, they fade away. So that's why you got your wolves and dingoes and stuff like that. What you get today is thousands of years of they select their own without us humans telling them how to breed or saving the weak ones. They select and away they go. Like, done a fair bit of trapping, and a lot of times I've skun a lot of dogs and cut them open if they got pups, so many pups, and all the dingo bitches, they got sort of, I don't know, 7 to 9 pups in them, but you never ever see 7 to 9 pups reared, like where I am anyway. you'll sort of start off and you might know what a little den is, and you might see a few poking about, and you'll say, well, there's 6 there, but next time you see them, might only be 3, or 1, or none. So that's just how they roll. See.
Yep.
And how did you get into trapping?
Oh, it was about 2000. It was on the parks. I started on the parks and had a big dog problem in Waltham with dogs, and just done a lot of bait, and all the old trappers were dying out. So remember, my boss Russell Smith, he said, "You want to have a go trapping?" So he gave me these traps with the rubber jaws on them. He said, "Have a bit of a go trapping." I said, "Yeah, righto." So I went out and he said, "You've trapped before, haven't you?" I said, "Oh, a few rabbits." I said, "Yeah, and a couple of foxes, but only using old steel jaw rabbit traps." So I went out and set these traps, and there's a fellow called Dave Harrison. He lives at Winterbourne, like on the edge of the gorge, and he'd been there all his life. And he gave me a couple of big old lane straps. He said, "Put them in the ground too. You want a bigger chance than them little plates." So righto. I down, he said, "Know what you're doing?" I said, "Yeah, I know what I'm doing." So I went over there and set some traps. He said, "Can you finding any scratches?" I'm thinking, yeah. I got the tree. And I'm thinking, oh, how far up the tree's he thinking? I didn't know what he's talking about. We got confused anyway. 3 days later, I've got him in the killing paddock trying to trap him, and he's come up. He said, "No," he said, "pull them up." He said, "That's just shit." I thought he said, "You know what you're doing." Anyway, so where did we get him? He said, "You got to go back out that ridge there. Get back in the park and go out that ridge." He said, "Get in the comfort zone." And I said, "Yeah, right." So we gets out there and he set one trap for me. He was a bit rough. He just sort of set it up for me. He said, "That's all you do. Go." And he had a little coolie dog there, and he said, "Watch your dog where it's putting its feet, and watch, you'll know if it's a dog or a bitch, because your dog will tell." And I said, "Yeah, right." So we set 5 traps anyway. He set the first one, and he said, "No, you set them all." And I'm thinking, "No, you set them so we can catch them, So I set the rest of them. That was on the Wednesday. Thursday, I went down the full wheel. I went to check. It was winter time. It was probably July it was, and it was cold. So I had beanies and jackets and bloody stuff on. And I'm driving up on the Thursday, all past the traps, nothing unsaid either. I went, "Nah, we're not going to win here, Friday I went through 3 dogs. See, that's what I got trapped. My first dog was there, and I took them back, and I thought, well, this is easy. Then I went to the next job and caught only naive dogs, and I just lucked it really, and just using a bit of dog piss and a bit of dog shit. Wasn't using anything fancy, and then sort of started trapping a fair few actually. And there was a fella from the Snowy Mountains, Mick Hedger. He come down. He's sort of just a little bit younger than me, and he come down, and yeah, good little fella, and we got on good, and he sort of showed me a few things, and and they're real neat up there because they've come from a history of trappers, Nice to just put leaves over the top of the trap and spread a bit of dirt. He said, "No, fella, he said, "Good, get out of that." He said, "I'll show you how to do it properly." So, you get all the tussocks and roll them up, and when he set a trap, you wouldn't see it, it was neat. And I thought, "Oh, shit, I better get that way." So I learned a bit of that, and we went up to Snowies and learned a bit more, and we went all over the place, and made a lot of mistakes, don't worry, but then sort of got a lot of rewards after that too. And we started howling them and shooting them and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that's how I sort of got into it. Yeah, I sort of started off pretty good, and then I thought to myself, I started mucking around nature. I'm making all these potions and stuff and blowing up blenders, and bloody, you get a bit on your finger, you have to cut your finger off. I started doing that stuff. I started going backwards, see, because I didn't realise what I was doing. I said, because your dogs are associative animals, trouble is, if he's got a mate with him and they smell that stuff that's not foreign to their area, well, of course, next time they go there, as soon as they get a whiff of that, danger, away they go. It's association, see? So just your normal dog piss and your normal dog shit, that's enough. But as I said the other night, it's just all your different strengths in it, you know what I mean? Some dogs don't react to younger dogs. They'll sniff it from back here, and they'll just tilt their head a little bit. But your younger dogs will go to it, see? So if you've only got one old dog you're using for a trap dog, you mightn't get the best reading out of him. So I always take a few dogs. So if there's a pack of dogs there, I'll let a few out, a younger dog and a bitch and an older dog. So my dog's scent and stuff acts like a pack sort of thing. So it'll entice them a bit more. So just different little things like that. You just got to work out what you're trying to trap and use the right decoy to get them.
Well, absolutely.
That's cool to answer it.
No, that's cool.
It takes ages. You want a couple of bottles of rum to get right into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was going to ask about different lures and whatnot. I hear about alpaca hair and all that. And my cousin's done a little bit of it as well. So it actually fascinates me. Waxing traps and preparing. So much preparation goes in, but how much skill is involved to get a dog to step on an inch trap or a pad in millions of acres, right? It's an art.
Oh, it is. It is. It's just like a little investigation. You got to find the DNA. You got to find where he was last. You got to ask the cocky. If you ever, because they'll tell you they don't know, but if you keep pumping them, they'll tell you. Yeah, actually, every time we pull up at that top gate, there's a tussock there. The dogs go mad at. What are they doing? And then you're like, right, good. I'll go to that spot and have a look. So when you go to these new blocks, it's an investigation. See, so you got to find out where it was, when he's killing any baits around here, because I've baited a fair few dogs, going on places and no baits, and then you get a bait, So you do a bit of that, and then you've got to sort of work out what you're after. See, so your dogs will tell you itself. I've got to take a couple of different dogs, run one at a time, and have a look, and you'll see the difference in what's there. So you're like, it's a bitch, older bitch, younger dog. You'll see some of your juvenile dogs, they'll get over and they'll shit or piss, they'll mark off the side of the road. And then your proud dogs will go in the middle of the road on a big thistle or a tussock sort of thing. And they get up high, you're killing dogs, and they'll spray shit up pretty high. So it just tells them I'm the dominant dog here. Same as your bloody pigs rubbing up trees or your deers with their bloody antlers and stuff like that. So it's just a little telltale thing in the bush for that. So for decoys, if just got to go see, I use everything natural. Like I'll get a bit of bloody tussock and I'll roll it up and I'll put it underneath my trap, underneath my plate. Or I'll get big gum leaves and fold them up underneath the plate, make like a little wallet underneath there, just for your sort of like a vacuum. So I just try to use everything natural. But you wax and dye, that's important. So you let your traps rust up a little bit, and then I'll dip them in some dye and wax together and boil them. So every time I use them or finish the job, I'll wax and dye them again. It just takes that shine off your trap and get some. They'll sort of half go black. If you use wattle bark for your stuff, they'll go like a blacky colour. Like, what it's like yourself when you're splitting a few posts or something, you debark, you're barking a few logs and your hands are black overnight for the sap, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's the same as you put in your traps, sort of thing. So you want everything in your favour when you put it in the ground. You don't want things digging them up and stuff like that. You got to have everything. You got to have the table set. You got to have everything right. So when you go, you want to be able to say to yourself, well, there should be no reason why they shouldn't get caught. It's just so the strengths in your decoy and how high you put it up. If you put it up a tree high, well, your dog's got a head about that big, neck, and then his shoulders, so he's sitting up high, so he's further away from your plate. See, you got him sitting lower at the ground. Well, his foot's close to his nose, so you just got to work all your distance out. See, like a lot of people say, "Oh, knee new peck," or this wide, or whatever. That wide's only a dingo standing up, a trays rolling in the sand, ready for a photo. As soon as he leans that way, the foot goes that way, or as soon as he goes back, as soon as he goes uphill, what do you do when you go uphill? Your stride's longer in it. As soon as you go down, how your steps in? Short. So you just got to compensate for all that sort of stuff. And the main thing is trying not to catch your non-targets. So you're talking about your Dorper hair and different things, and some people use rude blood or they use horse hoof or something like that. Yeah. That they all work. I'm not saying none of them work, but you just got to watch out for your non-targets. What else is about that you can catch? If that, what else likes blood? You got your foxes, you got your goannas, all that sort of stuff. So you just got to work out what's in the environment, whether it's deer. Like the last places they've got to pizzle them with red deer and pigs, like setting traps off and stuff like that. Because as soon as you put your dog's piss out there or shit, what happens? It's a new killer in the area. So all your natives, they go to look, investigate it. See, so sometimes you're better off setting your trap there, getting your loose dirt, putting it over the other side of the road. And if you're going to use, say, young dog piss there, go over there and put a drop over there, and then leave it for a couple of days and put a branch over your trap here. So everything in the bush will just go to that. Once they know the smell, they don't have to go to it then, see? Then you can rip that off and away they go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. And like you think about trapping dogs, you don't even think about the native stuff around. Like, and it's so important to use what's around as well, like.
Well, just crazy. You just got to minimise your non-targets. Like I'm not saying that you won't. The way I'm saying that you won't get nothing there, because you do, but you got to try and minimise it to a degree where you're not resetting traps every day.
Mate, while we're talking about wild dogs and trapping, there's a question here from Wayne Jones. Hey Milo, what have you learnt from trapping wild dogs, then relating it to your own working dogs from Yappa?
Not. Well, a dingo's a dingo. They're different, of course, to your normal dog. But what I've learned off my dogs how to read dingoes, really. I've never learned. I've had dingoes myself. Thought I was going to breed this real good cattle dog. So I've seen a bloke years ago. He had a dog called Desert, and it was a half dingo fellow, and it was good, like for finding cattle. I even seen it jump on a run up a stay and jump on a big bloody strainer post and stand up on his back leg sniffing for cattle and took off, And I thought, I want to breed one of them. They're going to be good, but they're not. I never got to the stage of joining one, but I had heaps of mates that did it, and I had a lot of dingoes. But they are what they are. They're a different creature. They've got instinct to survive. So they're not the dogs that they don't really rely on you, sort of thing. And the different little characteristics that they got, they are what they are. They're always going to kill. Like if you let them loose too much, they'll revert back to what they are. like you're talking about casting that in dogs. Like if you're going to start making it, as soon as that's all right. If you're going to make it, it's not natural. If you're going to make something do something, it's not natural. And after a while, they go, yep, I can do it. As soon as you send them over the hill, they go, yep, I might not say nothing. I'm going back to what I'm doing. I'm going straight as a bullet and getting these fellas, You've got no control when they get a distance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But back to his question, what was it again? Did I learn anything off the dingoes about me own dogs?
That you can relate back to your working dogs.
Not really. Only the stuff when the little fellas. If you use the dingoes as an example, like for a culling tool for your pups, how they do it. Like, so if you take your little pup out, say at 9 o'clock the next day, you breed a litter of pups. Say they're in a little kennel. I take the whole lot of the pups out and go and sit them over there, and then you watch your bitch go. And she'll go and pick them and start bringing them back. If you do it again the next day, 99% chance they'll go and pick the same one first. So, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be the best working dog. That doesn't mean anything of that. But what it is, that bitch is selecting the one that's going to carry her gene. Same as the dingoes. Like I remember, like when we were down the gorge, a lot of the times you'd get tangled up with them, like they'd be in the driftwood somewhere, like when they're about that 6-7 weeks old down the creek. So you'd ride up, and next minute with your dogs, there'd be a couple of little dingo pups trotting around with you. So I watched them and observed how they rolled at that age, sort of thing. What else was I going to say about that? Oh no, I've lost my thought then. Where was I going with that? Where was I going? Dingo pups, dogs.
Dingo pups, down gorge.
Yeah. No, didn't learn too much. They're a different dog to my dogs, really. They're a different dog to my dogs. They're survival. That's their number one thing.
Yeah.
Our dogs are different because we give them tucker. They don't have to use that instinct to survive. So they're two different dogs. But observing them how they play and their characteristics is one thing. Yeah.
What about trapping in general? Has that helped you with your own?
Two different things really. Than working dogs, but what I suppose I call me trap dogs, which is me normal dogs I use for work. I'll jump them off the buggy and I watch them, so I learn a lot from them. So I don't let them get too far. They go probably 20 metres and they trot up the road, and if I stop the buggy, they stop. And I just watch how they observe and how they sniff and how they approach stuff. That's about in the foot placement, like you're talking about the little cup an inch big. That's what I sort of look for in my own dog, but everything's got to be soft. So when you're starting the dog off to find sign, most of us, are always behind. So your dog never ever goes out in front to show you what he can find. See, so you always got to have a little tool in there. So you say righto, so the dog can actually go and hunt in front of you. But what you got to do is when he gets to about that 20 metres, if you start him off walking, when he gets to about that 20 metres, very important. You never say nothing. You don't say his name. All you do is drag your feet and run back the other way, and the dog will stop and look back at you. As soon as he acknowledges looking back at you, you stop, and he stops. Next thing, you keep walking again. But if he gets 25 metres, you stop and scratch your feet and run back the other way again until he stops, and you look at you. And after a while, it doesn't take long, he'll start walking and he'll think, righto, I'm about 20 metres, stay here. That's what they learn. So you don't want a dog that's pissing off, 50 metres down the track because you can't, like he might be already at a tussock, and then by the time you drive up to him, he's already gone, sort of thing. So you want them just in front of you to read them. So when you get that, and then when they start finding piss and shit, you go up and you make sure it is, it's not a fox or a wombat or whatever, and you just pat them calm. You just go and pat them calm, and they give you a funny look at first because they go, you're patting me for sniffing shit. Like usually you're hunting, So it doesn't take much. And say if you train them one, you go. So I team up with you. You get your dog off. I say, right, I let your dog out, buck him out, and let him go out there, and he'll go and empty out and piss and shit, whatever. I'll have my dog half tied, so he's doing the investigating. He's not actually cocking his leg on everything. He's investigating where your dog's been. See, so you want him a little bit tied. So your dog's done all that. So we walk up and we go, yep, all right, there's piss here, shit here, whatever. And then we might get that shit and move it up a little bit and say, right, if we're going to set a trap here, we'd put it here or here. So then I'll go get my dog, and I'll walk up with my dog, and I know he's heading to that dog shit. You can see him heading to it, and we know it's dog shit because your dog just done it. So you just go, where is he? You put the command as he's going to it, and you pat him, good boy, and then you'll see him go over that way to the dog piss, and you go, where is it? And you'll head over to there. As soon as he gets there, good boy. There's bugger all training it. They're doing it anyway. You just put a command to it.
Yeah.
You just agree with what they're doing. That's all. They'll sniff piss and shit till the day they die. That's one thing we can guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Absolutely.
That's the only thing we can guarantee with them, mainly.
And like with your wild dog work and stock work, are you doing a lot of stock work, or is it mostly the trap and stuff, or how you split your time?
Well, I do. I split it fairly well. It's pretty good because I've only got a handful of dogs, so I don't have to have them flat out all the time. So the jobs I do are sort of poking about doing little jobs to big jobs in the gorge, or then scrubber jobs or goat jobs. So they sort of get a little bit of work when they're trapping. They're only just running. Or you might be putting the cockies, putting some cattle back for him, or mucking about with him, or mucking around with a few dogs with him. And then you'll go to extreme. You'll go down the gorge, or you'll go, over up the road up here in the hills trying to get scrubbers and stuff out. So they go from sort of one extreme to the other sort of thing, or you can go trialing or do a few things like that. So they're not worked every day. And there's not many dogs now that are worked every day, like flat out sort of thing. So like years ago, when you were pack horsing in, like you had to have your dogs prepped up, ready to go, because you only can't, carry a certain amount of tucker in your packs for you wanted it for you really, not for your dogs. And the time, you can't really plan a trip. When your dogs are out of gas, you come home, because your horses last longer than your dogs. So when they're out of gas, the show's over. You come home, freshen them up, and then go back again. So you got to have them sort of fed up pretty good, but have them on sort of rations, so you can only take a handful, a little bit of tucker sort of thing for them. And the thing is with that, they've got to follow you in. They've got to work all day. They've got to follow you all day. They get clipped up to something like a chain through the night. Get up again the next morning, work, drive the cattle out. Like they might be there for 3 or 4 days. It takes a pretty fit dog to do 3 days where he's not on a buggy or whatever. See, a lot of work now. You're on a buggy. Get up, wake them all up with a buggy, send them here, put them up, do a bit of yard work, take a few back, change dogs over. There is a fair few people that still, like them shed dogs and stuff that work flat out, like especially out west and that, like they're in the heat, they're penning up and drenching and stuff. But there's some good handy dogs that do a fair week, you know what I mean? But as far as this other one, there's no rest for them. Everything they've got to do, they've got to be walking or trotting, or they've got to be with you, sort of thing.
Absolutely. And do you have a type or a style of dog that you prefer?
Just good ones.
Just good ones.
Desire's my main thing. I'm sort of down to the dregs of me dogs now. That the pack I've got now is not real good, but they get the job done. But you always like a bit more in them, or like them a bit better. But they are what they are. But not the dogs I used to have, certainly. But they have got that desire and want to work. So that's why they stay. I like big black dogs that look like a cheetah, but I haven't got them at the minute. That's what I strive for. But dogs that are athletic, dogs that have got a bit of going, a bit of step about in them. Like I hate doughy dogs. I like dogs that, like, what do you want me to do? Even if they're doing the wrong thing, I like them doing something. You know what I mean? That's just me. I don't like kids. I'm soft with them as far as like speaking and whistling. I don't yell and roar and bloody bash them with rakes or sticks. But I expect them to be. I don't want them soft. I don't want to be kidding them either. Like I don't tolerate that at all.
Yeah.
But the style, I like leggy dogs. Like you can pick them when they're little pups. 7 weeks old, you can pick up a pup, and by the first day, you can see what you got. Like it's a piece of piss. You can take him. If you're talking about desire, you take him for walking a bit of long grass. Take him for a walk across a little bloody, what do you call it, spillway of a dam. Walk through that. Go through a fence like that. Do things within their means, like that they can do. And you'll soon see if they've got the want and desire to follow you, even want to be with you. If you get there and they tread on a prickle and they start squealing, don't want to follow you anymore, well, how are they going to go when they get bigger?
Yeah.
You can pick all that stuff. They're not doing that now. Very seldom they'll just grow out of it when they're 3-year-old. I just look for that desire and that want. That's just me. Like a good leggy dog, good headed dog. Look, I like dogs with style, and I like all that real nice stuff. I like that. But I'd rather get rid of that and have something that's a bit plainer in the work that's got desire. That's what I like, sort of thing. Because a lot of the times now, we're breeding from dogs that haven't done a lot of work. And see, I'll give you an instance. Last Thursday, Friday, me and Fanny were down up the road up here, getting some cattle out. Anyway, we ended up with about 160 odd. We had to take down the road to another block. And anyway, we had to get them over the train line. So there's a gate here, train line, and another gate, a bit of tin over the train line thing. And Anyway, these cattle were all different vendors, we're trying to get them over the thing, and it split both ways. So we got them back and got them to the next gate. Then it took off down the road, and a couple of fresh paddocks there, and it's got a lot of long grass and thistles, nearly every weed you can think of in this place. Anyway, sent a dog. Anyway, he's going for it. Anyway, he's come off the side of the road. Look, there's probably about sort of 800 metre, lead of these cattle. Yeah. Anyway, he's gone through there and he's got tangle up in blackberry bushes. And every time he got out of a tangle, he just went even past. That desire. I've had other dogs where you send them and they go, I think I got caught in a blackberry bush, and they're shaking the leg thinking they're still caught. You know what I mean? Like, get cracking, And all them dogs that you think are good, you don't really get appreciation from them until you start getting them and the heat's on, and you go, I want you to get there, mate. Come on, it's do or die. They're going. I want you to get there. And then dogs with the desire, they'll always get there and do something for you. They'll try their ass out for you. And that's where I get me respect for dogs, is doing that. So I'd rather a one that's not. I like the fancy ones, don't get me wrong, but I want them to do that as well. Yeah. So really, if I had to pick one, I'd pick the one with desire. That's if you're doing a bit of work with them like that. If you didn't, you just wanted a weekend dog, don't worry about them. Fellas, keep these ones. Just like horses for courses, like horses I got, nobody much likes. I just like them quick walking, climbing, just go. I just want them tough horses. They don't suit weekenders. They're still bouncing by lunchtime. But after the fourth day, they're pretty good. So, but if I wasn't doing any of that stuff, I wouldn't have them either.
Yeah.
Does that sort of answer your question?
It does. It does. Off the back of that, there's a question here from Bryce Foster. Have you concentrated on a particular line and tried breeding that line for consistency? And if so, what is your experience and the best advice for people going down that track?
Well, breed like to like. Sometimes I like trying to put them over like cousins and half sisters and stuff like that, because when you work with a gene pool, like I go for manners and stuff, traits in dogs. So sometimes you go to someone's place and you'll have a look and that dog's bouncing in the cage mad, or he's pissed or shitting in his water dish, or he's just doing something to annoy you. So you got them little traits that annoy you. And if they annoy you, don't keep the dog. Simple as that, because you're doing no justice to the dog. So I look for a lot of traits. I like a calm dog with a lot of go. So it's sort of up and down. But I have had a few dogs where I've sort of bred that one and then got a pup out of that and bred the pup. But a lot of them sort of die out on me too quick. So I've never got into really breeding a heap of dogs to sort of do that. I just, if I need that, I need some more pups, I'll put that to that. And so I try to keep the gene pool pretty tight. So the trouble is, if I get a kill, if I take a dog of mine to one of yours and they're no relation, well, you got sort of, 10 sort of other dogs in that line, so they can bounce back anywhere. The first litter, they might be all black and tans, and the next litter, there might be 2 black and tans, 1 red and a smoky. And you go, oh, what's that one, Lauren? You might say, oh, the grandmother of this one was a smoky bitch, So they start bouncing back up the line. Sometimes they stay tight, sometimes they bounce up. So if you cut that in half and you like what you got, you put it over a half sister and get one of them to put that one back over the grandmother. All you're doing is you're tightening that gene pool up. You're keeping you tight. Some people say, oh, they'll get 5 legs and all that sort of stuff. Well, I'm yet to breed one. I reckon it'd be good because you'd shove one up in the collar, you'd have a spare, like a little spare tyre. But that doesn't happen. You've just got to select. If you get a little weedy, runny fella, you've just got to bloody rehome him, if you know what I mean. You can't, it's just like people selecting heifers. They don't select the shit ones. If someone's selecting a dog, they look for a type, conformation. Like you go to them horse days and that, and all them women there, they can all pick a horse. They can all, oh, he's a bit straight in the shoulder. He's a bit thick in the gullet. No, he slants off in the arse. Everyone's got an opinion about a horse, and they can tell you that by looking at it. As soon as they look at a dog, they haven't got much opinion. They go, oh, as long as it works, it'll be right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I look for conformation a lot in a dog. Something that can travel, clear a fence, and get cracking. That's what I look for. But as far as the breed, I had a lot of them Kelly dogs years ago. They're starting to die out on me a bit now. But they were pretty good dogs. You couldn't train on them much, but just good natural bush dogs. They're ones with a desire, stay with cattle and get there. And I sort of bred them brothers and sisters and tight. And we sort of, mate of mine, Scotty's still got a few of them there. And we still play about with a few of them. But they were a good line of work dogs, for sure. Real good line. But
you mean Keith Kelly?
Yeah, correct, yeah. No, they were a good line. But see, they were bred up there at Glenrock and they worked. That's what they had to do. They worked, and that's why they bred working dogs. Because they were dogs that worked, if you know what I mean. They were ones that done hard days and took off and, went for a kilometre. So that's why the traits of them come back to you, the dogs that you got now.
Yeah.
All you
And-
do, a lot of them.
You go. No, it's all right.
A lot of them, you just got to expose it to them. Like someone got, I've got a Kelly dog, but he won't find nothing. But it's because you haven't exposed him to that job.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
And-
exposure and opportunity. It plays a massive part, right?
Well, it does. You've got to give him opportunity. Just like you see a kid in the bush and you go, oh, he would have been a good runner, that fella, or a good fighter. He just never had an opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know he's busting for it. If you took him to Sydney or something and got a good set of boxing gloves for him, he could have been a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to the breeding, are you only like selecting like bitches that are meeting a criteria, or just your good dogs as such?
Mate, just good dogs. I do my little test with them to see if they're calm, see if they're going to take a bit of pressure, pain, whatever. And they're not cruel tests. It's a squeeze between their toes, do a few little things with them, have a look. Nice type, yep, cool. But that desire again. See, all that stuff blows out of the window if they don't want to follow you. So I take them for a walk and see if they've got the desire, and I just go, righto, that's the one I'm going to keep. A lot of the time, I like to keep bitches, but sometimes you just get there and you go, the dog pup's a bit better. I used to have a lot of bitches years ago. That's all I had. The odd dog, but now it's sort of the other way. It's nearly all dogs sort of thing. So, but look, my dream is, I'd love to sort of get a good line of dogs and have them there and be able to sell one a year, sort of thing. But that hasn't happened yet. So, I'd love to train a dog and sell it for 20 grand. But just I've never got enough to bloody replace the ones that are dying on me, let alone try and sell one. So,
is there anything you'd like to put back into your line or put into your line?
The ones I got desire, but not like the ones I used to have. Just like a bit of, we got desire, probably a bit of desire, probably a bit of neatness. I like dogs that are correct and think for themselves and don't drop stuff off, and just something that thinks like, as I said, you can do it when you've got little pups. You just got to put them in a little mini environment where you take them for a walk and you head. So their instinct is, to bring stuff to you. So as they're bringing them to you, then you go for a walk with them. And then you'll go for a walk, and then there might be a head of a tree that's down. So I'll walk there up over a dam bank around a blackberry bush or something. I'm just looking for that little pup, just observing. I'm not making them do anything. I'm observing what they can do. So you might see that pup first up, and you'll rush a little bit, and you forget half of them. The other half went around the blackberry bush. And then you just go back and repeat again. Like, I don't get up him or anything. That's his job. Just let him do his job. Let him figure it out himself. So you'll go around. Next thing you'll see that, and you might start to think. As long as they're going up millimetre by millimetre, I don't need big jumps. I just need every time you do something with them, they're just going up. They're just showing you that they're going to get a bit smarter. And you look at that little pup, and you'll back a bit and go, shit, I missed some ones before because I might just bring me back. I looked over there, and there was another 10 running that way. So I've missed them. And you'll see them pups that are smart and use their instinct. They'll drop back a bit and go, right. A lot of the times they will do something wrong at the start, but you just got to work out like human years and dog years, see? What would your little kid do? So because they're associative animals, your little kid walks up and picks up a stubby lid and he shows it to you real happy. And you just walk and you go, oh, it's a stubby lid. Good boy. Next thing he's like, it's a stubby lid. And he walks around and someone else gives him a stubby lid. And that's how he learns. But if he mucks up, you don't go bashing him for it, do you? You just go, oh, well, mate, don't worry about it. You don't say nothing. But when he does it, you reward him. It's the same as your pup. If they can do it, they've got to let them do shit wrong. But just don't put a command to it. Don't tell them they're doing nothing wrong. And they won't know they're doing nothing wrong. I remember a fella telling me once, had that Lance as a pup, and I went to a dog trial. I put him in maiden novice open, so you can get a couple of runs. You get 2 runs. And anyway, get into a few finals, so you get a few extra runs. And I said, he said, oh, you're pretty game putting him in the open, eh? I said, what do you mean game putting him in the open? He goes, oh, well, yeah, you probably should run him as a maiden dog. Like, he's probably not up the open. I said, I'll tell you what, I never even told him he's in the open. He doesn't know. I said, how do you do that? I said, it's the same frigging course all weekend, same course for the maiden novice open. It doesn't change, and the cattle are usually better in the open. Yeah. I said, he doesn't know. So, I mean, I don't get that sort of stuff. Like, it's, if they're good enough to bloody go around that thing in the maiden open, it's different if they had it like the open was like, shit, that's big league up there. You got to do this, that. Like the yard dog trials, I'll put a trailer in, they'll do that. You get shit. Well, yeah, maybe my dog's not up to that yet. But in the cattle trial, it's the same all weekend. Like you'll see mirror course. Hey?
You didn't tell him, but you're lucky you couldn't read. What happens if you read the draw?
Well, yeah, he's only going off what I was saying too. He had put a bit of trust in that old drunken fella. but Now, where we're getting back to there, where were we then? Oh yeah, with your little pups. Let them do things wrong. Just don't say nothing, because if you're up them all the time, next while they just get that way and they go, I'm doing nothing right. The best thing is to just shut up and let them do their job. And when they get something right, you put your little command to it. Good boy. That's all you got to say. Just agree with what they're doing and praise them for the stuff that you like to see. That's all it is. But the whole time, if you're there trying to train a pup, what people think they're training, they'll get there and they'll go in a little round yard and they go round and round in circles till the dog's dizzy, and they'll throw the rake out, go back that way, and they go round and round that way. As soon as you get it, look, that's okay. But there's, as old Johnny Stanton said, he said, there's not an event for it, so why train for it? There's never an event, or there's never a thing in a dog's life where he goes round and round in circles. He said, you never want a dog to go round and round in circles. You want him to bring stock to you in balance and feel a point. And, a lot of fellas have said that, and you think, yeah, well, Tony McCallum's the main fella. He's the fella that sort of got me going on all the dogs. I thought I knew a little bit about dogs till I met him, and then knew nothing. Still don't know nothing compared to him, you know what I mean? I only know enough to keep me, keep from drowning. But a lot of that stuff, he said, why? And he pointed out to you, what are you doing that for? You're working against his instinct. Let him bring him to you. Let him do this. Let him do that. Put a command to it as you're doing it, like they're associative animals. Okay, then I go, yeah. He goes, shut your mouth. He said, what do you think you're trying to train? Nothing. You're not doing anything. You're asking for shit that you're not going to get. So shut your mouth. Let's make it easier on yourself. He said, you're making yourself look stupid, which he was dead right. So he said, it's easier if you're going to make it. Sometimes it'll break. So if you've got to tell them how to suck eggs, after a while, they'll tell you how to suck eggs. You know what I mean? They go back to what they can do. Like them dogs that clap on the ground all the time. They're a good dog to get to sit on. You just go, then you got to get them moving. And after a while, if you send them dogs a distance, you know what they're going to be doing, don't you? Clap on the ground behind cattle. So you got to work out what dog suits you, really. And there's a dog for everybody. Don't get me wrong. There's a dog for everybody, but you just got to select for what you want. Like everyone's got their own opinion of dogs and how they work, but select for what you want. As far as that, like someone asked me the other day, they said, why don't you use lead on a dog? And I said, well, why do you use lead on a dog? And there's only one answer for that. One answer. Do you know it? You fellas know it?
About to find out.
Out of it.
Or control.
Why? Right? Because you don't trust them.
Correct.
That's the only
control
reason.
Measure.
Yeah, you think to yourself, if you could walk down the street without a lead, you would. But you think to yourself, shit, I think he could run in front of a car. I think he could go to fight that dog. I think he could take off work and stop. I'd better clip him up to make sure. Come here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's it. But don't worry about it. I used to do all that stuff. I used to be bad at that stuff like years ago. And I'm not saying the way I'm talking is the way to do it either. I'm not saying that at all. But the way this Tony showed me, and it just made that much sense, and it just put me from there to there, like quick. You know what I mean? Just to understand. I still get shit wrong. Still get it wrong. When you get there, you go, oh, I should have known better than that. But just different little things, and you think, or you stand there and you're trying to work your dog. Like a lot of people, they'll get there and they get their arms up and they go, yelling all this stuff that's not working, but they don't realise what they're doing to their stock. At the end of the day, are you working the dog or are you working the stock? There's a big difference. A lot of people get there and they start working the dog. See? So the dog's then switching off. They're going, here. Next minute, they start doing donuts and they're going around this way and that way and they're blocking them and carrying on. But they're pushed all your sheep, like especially sheep, they're touching. All your leaders are turning going like that. Then you go, right, now get me flow. You've stuffed your bloody flow. So you better off put you back to your sheep and just walk. Let your dog do the job. And they're allowed to get things wrong. That's the thing. They're allowed to do things wrong. Just don't say nothing to them when they're doing it. When they get old and they should know better, that's when you come down on them. So a 1-year-old dog's a 20-year-old person. Then they go 7 years after that. So if you do nothing with your dog, like getting back to a question someone else said about the bond, how important the bond is, it's very important, right? And it's 7 to 12 weeks of where you'll get that bond. That's like a kindergarten. That's like, here you go. Laura's got her kid, going to daycare or kindy. See you later. She goes. So that dog, that kid of yours has got you probably haven't got a kid, but that kid of yours has got to go.
I know a kid.
Yeah, who do I bond to? So the coolest person there, if it's a school teacher, they're stuck to the school teacher, don't they? It's the same as your pups. They've got to have someone to go to. So if we make it good for them, righto, why wouldn't they want to stay with you? That's the thing, like you're not being hard on them. You're just like, come, be with me, and I'll let you work. Come with me, And that's all you're looking for with that bond. You've got to get that good bond. So your dog goes, I'm sitting with you until you tell me what to do. See, if you wait, see, when do kids learn all this stuff? When the little fellas, because like I was talking about the stubby lid and all that sort of stuff. They learn all that stuff in kindergarten. They think they get role models. They think everything's good, and they grab stuff and they that's their time to learn. They absorb a lot of stuff. What's this? What's that? They're all pointing. A little grandkid there now, and he's there. He's just pointing. He can't talk much, but he points at something. Until you give him an answer, he won't pull his finger down. But so you get into that sort of stuff like that. But then people will get there and they'll say, "I'll train him later on." And don't get me wrong. I used to do all this too. I used to think, leave him longer. Don't pick that pup up yet. Get an extra couple of weeks. It'll be a bit bigger. But really, what I know now, you got to get him. You got to get him when they're young. So you get your 7 to 12 weeks old, right? Which is only 5 weeks. You'll teach all your pup in 5 weeks what you want to teach him for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
that's all. Then you just got to go to work.
Question here from Zach. He's asked, "What do you look for in a pup, and what age do you like to select a pup and bring it home?"
Well, that's 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Select them, as I said, like that 3 or 4 weeks, they'll do stuff different from when they're 7 weeks old. So when they're 7 weeks old, they're ready to go on their journey. If you want to say that, so they go out. That's when they're mothers. That's when nature culls them themselves. See, and that's when we should be really. All we're going to do is observe. We don't have to make them do anything. We just observe, remember, and compare, which a lot of us don't do. So we're just going to go, yep. He's doing this. The last one that done that, he never made it to the next stage either. So, and I get a lot of people say to me, "You're too hard on them." I'm not hard on them at all. They get rolled. They get bloody kennel each. They get their own good dog tucker. They get looked after, let out by themselves. They get to work. I said, I'm just fussy on what dogs I keep. That's all I'm hard on keep what dogs to keep. So someone said to me before, I said, "But you only keep the good ones to train." I said, "Why would I want to keep the bad ones? I've trained hundreds of them. Why would I want to keep another bad one? I'll give you a bad dog. Can you train it? Yeah. I don't know what for, but yeah, I'll train it." That's why I'm just I'll select the dog that I like and go, "That's him. We're going to work. We're going to be mates. I want you for 10 years. So you got to have them physically built right too." So it's like a little Hyundai car, Land Cruiser. You get there, and which one's going to do the most Ks? Little Hyundai's a zippy little car, like a little trial car, and then you got the workhorse there. So what do you want? You know what I mean? What's going to get you the most miles? Same as a dog with bad conformation that can't run properly. They get there and they'll head out and they might do 365 strides. And the dog with good conformation, same job, might be do 220. So who's going to get the Ks up the most?
Yeah, that's right.
The little fella. That's one of the ones they wear out. So you've got to have them ones with good conformation. So if you select the dog, you want to be mates for years, don't you? So I got that 7 weeks old, do all my tests, and what you got to do is learn. And it took me ages to learn it. Is if you go to your place and you don't like if you don't like a pup, say thank you very much, I'm fine, and go. Because I never used to do that. I was a bit soft seed, like, "Oh, while I'm here, I'll give it a go." And I talk myself into it. It won't be too bad if I take it home and do something with it, and I'll make it do this and that. I was only fooling myself, you know what I mean? And the sort of pups that you get there and you don't like it from the start. So you go, "Well, I'm already here." So you pay the money. You already cost the money in fuel. Then you pick it up and you put it in the cage and it's howling all the way home. So you can't go for the drive from McDonald's. You've got to go all the stock route road where the trucks go because you get embarrassed driving down the street with this bloody pup yelling. Then you get home and you pick it up by your 2 fingers because it's spewed and shit everywhere. And you just get, and you throw it back in the cage. So you're off to a real bad start, aren't you? For a start.
Definitely.
So you got to learn to say, "Mate, thank you, but I'll just leave him there. I'll just leave him there." And a lot of people, like, you try not to offend people, but you just got to. It's worse than you pay the money, you take it home, and you go, "I'm going to shoot it anyway," and then you say to someone, "No, he was a good dog. 4-wheeler run over him." So you got to start bullshitting. So you might as well not do that. You might as well just say to them, "Listen, thank you very much for the offer of the pup, but I don't think it's going to suit me." That's all you got to say. Mm-hmm. It's easy for me to say that now, but it took me ages to get the balls to say that. If you didn't want to offend anyone, see, so you're better off just leaving it there. Because I know years ago, me and a mate, we thought we were going to make money out of training dogs. We thought we were big trainers, but we didn't know nothing in them days anyway. But we thought we're getting the land newspapers. No Facebook then. It was all the land newspaper, $200, $300 dogs. So we went for a big trip and we had all these dogs writing out checks and sending checks to these fellas and holding this dog and holding that dog till they're all about the same, The youngest would have been 5 weeks and maybe 8 weeks for the oldest, but we had about 7 dogs to pick up. So we cruised around to go pick these dogs up. And I remember asking this old fella, I said to him, he kept this pup about 8 weeks, and I said, "We get sending out these 2 big fat kelpies sitting on the veranda." And I thought, that must be the retiree. That wouldn't be the parents, would they? And said, "Oh, mate, can you give us a demo?" Like, we drove past sheep, and we didn't realise this old fellow was just a retired old bloke that lived on this big place, but he just had 2 pets, the only pets. And they sounded good in the land newspaper, and that little spot that they give them, Anyway, said to me, mate, I said, "Can you give us a demo?" He said, "Yeah." And my mate looked at me and said, "This is not the demo you think's going to happen. You know that, don't you?" And he said, "Here, get away out, away out." He set these dogs, and they took off the veranda, and they run towards these sheep barking and turn around and come back. And I went, "Oh, no." I thought, while I'm there, I'll take the pup. Anyway, another lady, we bailed on this one. We said, "Can you show us the parents' work?" She said, "No, my dogs work all week. There's no way I'm showing you what they do on the weekend. That's their time off." No. I said, "Really?" She said, "Yep." I said, "Mate, don't worry about the dog." I said, "Because if you can't do a 5-minute demo on a Saturday," I said, "there's probably not a dog for me." She said, "It was probably not." And she hung up on me, So I did. That was the first time I sort of stood up a little bit and went, "No, I'm not going to get it," But the rest of them, I got it. I had to learn the lesson, you know what I mean? I had to learn the lesson. I thought there was always a big Jurassic Park of dogs there. I thought I was going to go through these big gates and there's these big, good types of dogs that all work. I'm thinking they've got to be hiding somewhere. They're not. You've got to find them, make them. Simple as that.
So off the back of that, what advice would you give to someone looking to purchase their first dog or pup?
No, it's hard. It's hard because usually fellas with real good dogs don't get to really advertise them. Usually fellas with good dogs haven't got a lot of dogs because their dogs work and they're sort of like, I can't really afford me bitch to be breeding because I need it for work on Tuesday. So they've only got a little team of dogs and they work. So they're listen, I don't condone anybody selling dogs. Like, don't get me wrong that way. I'd love to bloody have heaps of dogs that I can sell, but I just haven't got them. Simple as that. But just be wary of the like when you're buying them. Go and get a good breeder, but just go and have a look at the parents and the brother. Ask a lot of questions. That's what you got to do. Go and have a look at the traits of the dog. So sometimes you get a dog, ask the questions because a lot of times they're not bullshitting to you. They're just not telling you everything because you're not asking them either.
Yeah.
But how long did it take to get work? What do they like around the kennel? Do they fight? Are they this or they that? If you get there and the dogs are all barking mad in the cage and you look at the water dishes are all chewed up the million bits, you just go, either they're bored or this might be the dog for me. It's what you can really put up with, really. And sometimes when your dogs sort of go downhill a bit, you got to sort of put up with a little bit more. That's sort of how it goes. If you need them, they're better than no dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you just got to have that way where you're not yelling and roaring and bloody carrying on, but just sort of mainly, go to someone that you know or someone knows that someone can refer to, and you can go and have a look and buy a pup off them or get a pup. Like I don't sell any pups. I just give them away to people like fellas, even young fellas starting out or something. I like to just give them something. If they go good with that, well, that's I'm happy doing that. You know what I mean? As I said, I'd love to sell them. I'd love to have a good line of pups. You go, shit, right, I will sell them or get one ready for the sale. I'd love to do that. I just haven't got the dogs to do that with. That's all. But it's coming one day. I'll just keep poking away. It'll get there. You'd nothing better than someone for 20 grand to be a good little buddy boost for you, But just good dogs are good dogs. I just like dogs that have got that, as I said, that desire and the want to work. That's the stuff I want. But that's only for me. It's not for everybody. It's just for me how I want them. As I said, everyone's got their different opinions on dogs, but I do like them dogs that do bite a bit. I've got them bully boxer cattle dogs for your heavy work. But a lot of the times they'll wreck a lot of shows too if they're not under control. So they're good for punching on cows and calves and stuff. And that scrubber work, everyone goes, you want them for that scrubber, catch it, but it's no good unless you catch them and tie them up, like going for fuel money or something. You don't. A lot of times they'll wreck a show on you. So you're better off just with your bit steadier dogs. But you've got to have where I am. You've got to have a bit of snap in them because if they haven't, if they're sort of leading out and barking like them cattle, just lift the head up and they just go. They'll cart the good dogs that can bite them away anyway. So you don't want to get in that situation. Like it's pretty rugged country, so and they might only be on a road track pulling out. So you got to have that dog that'll get up, and not try and block them from where they're going. But look, there's always a science and that stuff too. I remember we were trying to get some cattle down the gorge one day, and they kept beating me off this flat. So I'd get there, and I'd see them. I'd sneak up on the flat, and I'd try to sneak up close to them, and I knew they were going to beat me. Go up these couple of tracks, and then a bit of brush. So anyway, I'd send the dogs. Anyway, they'd get them, but there was 13 in this, 12 in this mob. A couple of little bulls and a few cows, like a few little cow trains there. Anyway, they'd take off. And the trouble is, by the time the dogs got to them, they were sort of 9 wide. So they had to sort of dance around the front and have a couple of crow pecks at them to try and pull them up. But these cattle were committed, and they got away with it once and jumped over them. So off they went. I was talking to this old for that old Jeff, and I said to him, like, I don't know how I'm going to get these ones. He said, well, there's a bit of science in this stuff. He said, like really, he said, you've sent, 80 kilos of fur, to pull up sort of 6 ton of beef. He said, there's a bit of science in it. He says, it's not about, strength. I said, yeah, right. I said, so why don't you help yourself a bit? He said, you know where they're going to run, don't you? I said, yep. He said, well, why don't you ride up into there and send your dogs back to the flat? So your dogs are on a wind, see? So your dogs are at the tail the whole time, bringing them willing cattle that are going to come up to where they're going anyway. But when they get there, you're there, see, in their track where they're going. So your dogs come up, and all they're going to do when the cattle see you, they start going, I'm going to head down this way. And all your dog's got to do is to hit the one on the side, like a little pinball machine. They hit that one, so it spears back this way. Then they hit the one on the other side and spears back. And before you know it, you've got them half plumbed up, but they're only addressing the sides and not the front, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you start going up and then letting them. So your dogs are always on the wind, so at the tail, smacking the side. And then you go up, drift up, and you just do a bit of a turn and go down slowly to the next gully and then back up and around till you got them back on the river and then head off with it. So there's ways you can do it too with the team of dogs that you got. Like you can have all the strength in the world and you can lose it. You know what I mean? I've had them chewing dogs and I've been down there and never had me stop properly. Like I've got on the flats and you get to sort of suss it out and send a softer dog around and you'll see that old cow that's looking back somewhere. You think, well, she'd have a calf buried somewhere, this bastard. But she's willing to come back to the mob. And then what happens then is you start driving them away. Next thing she's put her head up and going to go back to a calf. And there's not many dogs that can stop them, really, when they're committed to go back to their calf. So all you do is you put a big blue on there and they already know they can get over your dog. And then it's sort of, so you just got to think a little bit too in the bush. That's where it comes into a bit of bloody different stuff, yeah.
No,
That
it's
answers your question, right? Did I go completely off it?
No,
it's cool. All good. You've mentioned a fair bit like influential people. But have you had any influential dogs?
Influential dogs. As side dogs or just good dogs?
Just to help you. Just that have influential you.
Yep, look, I had that old bitch Chloe, as I said, that the third dog I got, she was a pretty handy dog. Proper good sheep dog, like one of the ones that kick out wide and as they come and if there's a sheep dropped off, she'd be with it and give it enough room. Just one of them natural smart dogs, I couldn't train her nothing. Just come here. That's all I trained her. Come behind and sit. That's all I could train her. Rest was natural. She was pretty good. Had an old Kelly bitch I got up Chad Reynolds called Sue. She probably bred me the best dogs. She was pretty smart. And had a pup called Willie. He was going to be he's probably one of the best dogs I ever had. And we're catching goats for the goat races for bloody Woolbrook. And he ended up grabbing a black billy on a cliff and they went off the cliff. So, ended up doing him in. And then Lance is probably the first dog I had an old dog called Spider. I got off Dick Chapman. He was a handy dog. And then Lance was probably the best one I've had for a while. He was the sort of first one I trained that Tony McCallum method sort of thing. Selected him, picked him, and went through the whole program. He was the first dog I'd done the program with, and he ended up not too bad. Like, as I said, he's not a great dog, but he was just you could do anything with him, sort of thing. Yeah. That's what made him. You could go to a trial. You could, he wasn't that great at them, but you could be a little bit competitive at one. You go to a McCallum trial, so you can go from a little arena one to a one where you got to send them half a K and send them out of sight and do all that stuff and bring them back to the yards and draft up a couple. He was probably more suited to them, the practical stuff. But he's still, you get the odd run out of him at a normal trial too. But find cattle, stay with cattle, get you some goats, work sheep, work in the yards. He was just sort of probably the dog I suppose that had the most fun with, I suppose you say. But had that good bond with him where he, you could do a bit of showing off with him too. That's probably the one I got now. Like I got another bitch called Faye. She's not too bad, but she's nothing compared to the ones I had. She's okay, but that's about all. I've only had a handful of sort of half decent ones in my time, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But ones you could have a bit of fun with. About.
You mentioned there about a few dogs that you didn't put any training into. Like, how much training would you put into your dogs now?
Well, I put a little bit more in. We'll see. A lot of people get confused when they go, this dog, got to stop, good recall, and good sides. Like a side is really, what I call a side is you can call him from that 12 o'clock anywhere back to where you are on that side and that side. I think they get that confused with the direction. Like they go, we'll show us his sides, and they go, way out, and they send him that way, and you go, okay, that's a direction. Right, now pull him this way. Here, come here. Stop. They can't do that. So that's what I've had to train, because I had that, and a good stop. I've trained more of that into them, because years ago I had a lot of work for dogs, and you're in the bush a lot of the time, and dogs just got tired. Like every time you pull up on a horse, they'd get there and they start digging holes in the shade, start biting bloody march flies. They were just like, don't send me. So I got control by having them tied. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get there and you get along the river, and you wanted to send that one dog. As soon as you whisper to it, everything else bloody. As soon as you start whispering, everything else gets bloody wanting to go. So I got that way where I'd go down towards the river if I wanted to send one, and you'd hear all the bloody cicadas and stuff going, and then I'd send that one. And then a lot of the times, 3 wanted to go, and then you'd call 2 back, and then the one that you wanted to send, it wouldn't go because it got offended. So I they done the job, but now I've got a better handle on them where I can say, John, back, and Toby and Rick and all them stay. You know what I mean? So I've learned a lot as far as training them to go to work. You know what I mean? So name activation, like so, when you call that name, that dog comes and does it. Not all of them. So when you're down the bush, you've got to have that way where you don't want all your dogs working. So you might go out. So your dogs find better when they're fresh. So you might be riding. So you've got your pack horses with you, whatever. You cruise them. Next minute you see your dogs start to get a bit keen, just like pig dogs. And then you'll get up there. A lot of the times your dogs will just go anyway. But I just like keep a couple behind and let a couple go. So you don't want to wear them all out, and then you'll go find them. You always keep a dog or 2 behind. So if you can't find them, you just go another dog. You might go back behind you and go back up the hill. You know what I mean? So always keep a couple, just even find the other dogs. So you look for that, and once you get your mob together, the one that wants to do the most work, just wear him out for a bit. Then get him behind your horse. Because sometimes you mightn't even use a dog till 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You might just be trotting behind your horse. But when you want it, you know your own dogs. When you want it, you want it. You know what I mean? So if you send them all at once, you only get an hour out of them. So you got to have them so that they're name activated, so you can send one to do a job. That's how I look at it anyway. So I've probably got better at training them that way, and to get that good sit on them. So if I go, I want them to stop there and not get up. For all different reasons. You know, if I might want to send them to block a gate and sit them in the gateway, or whatever. That's what I've got sort of a bit better at, trying to get a stop on them. Like before, I had a Clayton stop when you know how to stop. You know, they'd stop when they got the balance, and they'd stop when they were tired. But if someone said stop him now, just there, it mightn't happen. You know what I mean? So I had to get better. Look, Tony taught me all that sort of stuff and got me better at that, because send your dog flat out towards the cattle. Right, stop it. And then you say, well, I won't say stop or whatever. Like the next thing, you go to balance and then stop when the job was done. So really, you never had a stop on it, did you? It's simple. That a stop is a stop. Like there's no such thing as a half stop. It's just like a half pregnant woman. They're either pregnant or they're not. There's no in between. So that's what I've got training into on that. Just so that name activated, because I haven't got the big miles from the day. Well, I have, but it's only in short spurts.
Yeah.
So just the ones that'll hold. You get dogs that overwork, but if you take them down there, a lot of the times they'll learn themselves. They get into a pattern where they go, I've done that. If I just trail behind them now, it's okay. It's okay. I don't have to zigzag like a windscreen wiper because I'm knocking myself up. So they do learn their job a lot of the times if you do enough with them, and just let them do it. Like don't try to tell them how to suck eggs. Like a lot of the times we get there, we think we know what we're doing. We sort of hem them a bit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
A bloke said to me once, I had a bitch there, and in this tree farm lease I had a big tree farm lease with some cattle in it. Anyway, it was all planted to trees, and there was a couple of stacks up on the hill there that they burnt, and there was cattle, 15 to 16 head of cattle spread out over that, about a K away, up a big valley. So I sent this red bitch up there, this Kelly bitch I had, and she was a little bit weak on the head, but she could bite the ass pretty well. So, like, she'd do a bit of fly biting and mucking about, but her strength was at the ass. So anyway, I sent her up, and I'm waiting, we're watching her through a scope, and this fella said, it was Tony, he said, and she stopped. She got to the cattle, she stopped. And I was just about to give her another whistle. He said, hey, shut up. Let her do the job, Anyway, she went up, and she's got up a little bit and looked at, because it was probably spread out for probably 80 metres, was spread, like 15 was spread out around these stacks. And she's got up and sussed it all out, and she's come back to these ones, and she just started heeling them, bang, 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 and got them running. And she's chased them towards the other ones. And as they got there, she flicked out around these snacks, done a little fly bite, and swung off one's nose. plumbed them up, and just bring them straight down the hill. So for me, I think myself, oh, you're weak, you're sort of this. But she had a knack to get things going, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And she was just smart. She learned a job, and she stayed with cattle all day. Like you could go to a paddock and send her, as long as there was a gate there, like as long as you send her from a gateway somewhere, and leave her for half a day. And when you come back, you'd have cattle, whatever she found, you'd have them sitting at the gateway, and she'd just be sitting back off them, just minding them. You know what I mean? A lot of the times your dog's overwork, but when you do a lot of that stuff, a lot of the times they just go, if we can just sit here and blood for a bit, this will be good. He won't be back for a while. We'll just blood you, If you haven't got that work for them, they're always like, you get over there and you got a bulge in your fence or they're bloody busted off or something like that. So having a bit of work for them is good sort of thing to test them, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Absolutely. Mate, and we mentioned trialling a little bit there earlier. Mate, how long have you been trialling and what kind of trialling have you had a crack at?
Well, mate, my first trial, actually, a fellow called Jason Cooper, he lived in Woolbrook. He took me to my first trial because I had them bitches I was talking about at the start.
Yep.
And I thought I had a little bit of a handle on them, like you could sit them here and there, a bit soft, but they wouldn't just sit just there or they wouldn't come 2 foot this way either. They were good work dogs, good at their job, but let's come back to your training again. I never had that little bit on them. And he took me to a 3 sheep trial. I said, come on. He said, they'll be right. I said, come to this 3 sheep trial at bloody Wollomumby. So I went to this 3 sheep trial, but it wasn't a big, mad 3 sheep trial, just a little fella. And we went there and, they were working, doing their thing, but I had no idea. And it ended up a shit show. Like I thought, nah. That was reality hit me. I thought, nah, you got to do a bit more because blokes like here, over. And they're bringing them dogs, inches and walking them in and bringing them this way and looping them around. I thought, oh, dude, just good mind work and they can sit. Didn't mean nothing in that thing. I thought, I've got to get a bit better in this. So I think it was, I don't know what trial, might have been Red Range or Nowndock or something, at a cattle dog trial. And then young Trevor McKinnon, he'd done a bit of trial. Then he said, come on, come to a trial. Come, bring your dogs to a cattle dog trial. So I had probably half a dozen there I took and went to a cattle dog trial and lucky enough to get an odd little place just to get you a bit hungry. And I thought, oh, this is not too bad. I like this. And then 2 weeks later, I went to Upper Horde and had a sheepdog trial. Like they had a 3 sheep and a yard dog trial. And I thought, this will be good too. I'll do this. So I had a little bitch I brought off the bloody copper fella down at Kempsey and got her going, but she was just a natural backer. And I wish I had her today, actually. She was pretty good. Anyway, I thought I'll enter her in the yard dog trial because she backs a little bit. And I had about 6 or 7 dogs in the 3 sheep. I thought, these will be all right. I think they give you about 12 minutes in that 3 sheep trial. And I take that off to them guys. It's an art. But I got out there. I think I was 12 minutes for the 7 runs. That's all I got. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, mate. Like they're just a bit too rough on them. You know what I mean? Because I'm a bit impatient anyway, and I'm like, just get in there and they're grabbing things. And thanks, mate. So anyway, I thought, oh well, that's what I thought I was going to do good at. But no, I didn't. Retired got sent every run, I think. But I ended up bloody winning a couple of things with the yard dog. I thought, shit, maybe it's yard dogs. But so I went to that, and then I went to a couple of cattle dog trials then. So I started doing a couple of them and worked out, no, I've got to start training my dogs properly if you want to be competitive. So that's when I started with Lance, and I didn't tell him he was in the open. So that's that day. So I got there, and his mother Penny, and she was pretty suited to it as well. So I had 3 or 4 dogs, and I sort of culled it down to sort of about 3, and I took a couple of them and had a little bit of fun with them. I didn't do any bloody great wonders, but I had a little bit of fun with them. And then Tony McCallum, he said, you better come to one of my trials. You want at Manila? Nothing I've ever seen before. He had a blue tarp down. That was the creek. You had to jump across the blue tarp and different little things. And it was just a whole different thing. And he said, it's just real work, and jump him on a buggy and do this and do that. And I thought, yep. And I went there and sort of had a bit of luck with them too. And I thought, well, this is more suited to me, like a real job. So I done a bit of that. And yeah, I only sort of really go there to get on the piss and have a yarn with a few fellas. Met a lot of great blokes at them trials. Like the other day, we were at Ballarang at the last trial. Last trial I went to was Ballarang, and it was just a good little day. We were just drinking beers, riding horses around, working dogs. It was just a good day. And the people are there are nice people, you know what I mean? And I'll go to Walker tomorrow and catch up a lot of fellas I haven't seen and have a few beers and work a couple of dogs, and it'll be great, yeah. It's how I was saying, it's not how you win, it's how you lose. A lot of people get the shits how they bloody if they lose, but it doesn't matter. It's just the luck of the draw. If you get bad cattle, or you get good cattle, or whatever. Or if your dogs let you down, or you let your dog down, whatever. So it's just all it is a bit of a weekend away for me to have a bit of fun and talk dogs with people. That's all it is to me. So that's how
Yeah,
I started
yeah.
the trialing. I don't know how long I've been trialing for, maybe 10 or 15 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think exact dates, but it'd be 10 years anyway. It'd be 10 years, but met a lot of good people and got into the dog loop then, see? You wouldn't be in such a big loop if you never went to.
Absolutely. You answered about 6 questions for us then. I reckon
Yeah.
even more.
I'll grab the 2 bags of dog tucker for that.
Do you have a favourite trial that you've been to?
Probably Linton was a good trial. How they done it? They had a set of yards there. They let out 10 head of cattle out of the yards, and they walked them over a hill and put them on a biscuit of hay about probably 400 metres away out of sight. But your dog got to see them go past you. All right. So and then they'd crack a whip when they wanted you to start, and then you'd send your dog, and they'd go and find the cattle, which was pretty easy because the scent was already there. Most dogs, people cast them the other way, but I just send them straight on the scent. Go over, pick your cattle up, bring them up over the hill, and if along the fence there was a trough on the fence, and off that there was a tree, and they put a steel post. So if you got them off the fence as you're coming out at say about 150 metres, you could sort of get your dog to keep them off the fence. Bring them between the tree and the steel post, maximum points. Like you got 5 points per beast. That's how these trials roll.
Yeah.
And then you got them. There was another little obstacle, I just forget what it was, and you put them in the yards. So you put them in the yards in the force. You bring them up the race, and you draft out whatever you want, the 3 that you want to continue with. So you let 7 go and draft out 3, bring them through the race, open the head bail up, kick them back out the paddock, flick your dog around, and then another little obstacle back in the home paddock. That was sort of a real practical. Like I had to take them to the yards, do that sort of stuff. It was probably one of the better trials I've been. Like one I sort of liked the best. Gunaganu was another good one. We had to send them over a broken river, and they had a little bit of hay, and it's good when you're looking at dogs. A lot of dogs look good, and then until you put some hungry weaners on a bit of hay, and some dogs get there and they don't stamp enough authority, and they just sit there and clap down, and they can't even move them off the hay. You know what I mean? So ideally, you need a dog with a bit of purpose, wants to get there, and control the show, get going. Whatever he's done, even if he's a bit weak and he just snaps a little bit or barks or whatever, just get the show going. Like no good sitting there looking if nothing's happening. So that's when you look at all these different trials of Tony's. He's got little aspects in there for. It doesn't suit the dog, bush dog, and it doesn't suit the trial dog. It suits the dog that can do the lot.
Yeah.
Because you get the little things we got to work off balance a bit or do this. And you usually got a gate, like you can be with your dog nursing along, you can be nursing cattle. Next thing you got to hold that gate like a normal trial and put them through. So you can get all that, but if you can't get them through the gate, you're losing points too. So
Yeah.
that was probably one of they were my favourite ones. Yeah, them sorts of trials.
And do you have a memorable moment or favourite achievement at a trial?
Not really. A lot of them we used to have a bit of fun at, like bloody of a night time. Yeah, so, that's about it. Yeah, just meeting good people and having a good yarn and having a few beers and unwind. That's sort of that's my main memorable thing of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You win some, you lose some, you're placing some, you get a few bags of dog tucker here and there, you get a bit of fuel money, but that's sort of. I don't go there to try and you just go there for a bit of fun. And if luck comes your way, we'll take it.
That's it, mate. And away from trialing and dogs, the other night we were having a chat, and you mentioned backtrack. You do a bit with the young fellas there.
I do, mate. Look, it's pretty good. See, I left the parks there 15 months ago, and I just went contracting, and I thought, righto. So I just do a bit of cattle work. We've got a few places I just do my cattle work on. Do a bit of goating, and then do some dog trapping schools I've been doing for bloody years. And then I'll go with every spare day you can go with backtrack. So you might go trapping down the Hunter for 15 to 16 days, and you come back and do backtrack for a bit, and a bit of mustering, a bit of backtrack, bit of mustering, back trapping, and sort of just it's a good variety I've got at the minute actually. So the other day I took a couple of boys out. When was that? What's the day? Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, I took a few boys out, and we went down the river. We got a maroo, and they ate a roo, and we caught some trout. We just had to do the little man versus food day. You know what I mean? So I'm getting a bit technical towards the end of it. It's only one loaf of bread, 4 bananas, a bit of sauce, a bit of butter. That's all we sort of took, and just teaching them like fill your water bottles up, because they always like yeah, it's all good until they get hungry. I had to learn that myself. I remember when I was down in the gorge with this old fellow. He said to me, always pack on an empty stomach. He said, if you have a feed, you don't pack enough. He said, first thing you do, like them old fellas, you're always up about 4 o'clock in the morning. So it took them that long to bloody have a cup of tea, you know what I mean? They had to have 4 cups of tea before they've done anything. So you done that, and you packed your bloody lunch, and you got all that. Then you had breakfast just on daylight, you know what I mean? You had your horses ready, saddled, ready to go. You know, if you were just doing day trips, you didn't have to load all your packs and that. You're right to go. And I just remember that, always pack on an empty stomach, because I do it myself. If you have a big food, I'll be right for the day.
Yeah.
But, 10, 11 o'clock, you're bloody bit older in the guts, aren't you? So that's teaching these fellas. I said, righto, I only ask them once. You got water? You got this? Yeah. Where's your water bottle? Oh, I'm right. No worries. Cruise. We just go. And after a while, they don't forget it the next day anyway. Just do a bit with them. Teach them how to share. Tie a thing off in the back of your ute. Just teaching them manners, probably. Just how to engage with people and different things like that. It's good fun mucking about with them. Yeah.
What do you get out of it personally? What's your takeaway?
Oh, just moulding a few of them, having a bit of an influence on them.
Yeah.
So just so if you see them one day doing good, you've had a bit of part in that. It makes you feel a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just for those that don't know what backtrack is, do you just want to explain how the people, how the young fellas come there and sort of what the idea of it is?
Yeah, well, it's the 5%ers as they call it. So it's the kids that sort of not, kicked out of every school. Usually a lot of drugs involved. So their parents are druggos, all that sort of stuff, and they've had a bad upbringing. Like their breeding's not as good as most. You know what I mean? So they're always defaulting back to that no work, get on the bong, whatever like that, or harder drugs they're into now. So Backtrack just provides a little spot from where they can come. They've got a school teacher at Backtrack as well. So they've got a little place they can come and do their stuff. They don't have to stay there. Like this, if they want to walk out, they can walk out. You don't go running after them if they choose to be there. And there's metal workers, there's bloody builders, there's all different people. If they want to go somewhere, they've got it. You know what I mean? So it's just the fellas that drop out. You get a lot of fellas from away, and there's a place called Warra where they all camp. So they go and the fellas, and some of them no homes or whatever. They can go to this place, and there's a daughter looks after them. She's got them there, and she stables them there. So they got their little spot there, and she lives next door, and that's where the kids with no homes and stuff, or fellas from away, they come there. And that's how they sort of grow up, and they come to the shed in the morning. We've got little tasks. I might take 2 or 3 doing something else. A couple might go do something. The cops might come one day and have a talk with them, and they might make copies, or just teaching them about the real world, really, just to try and just to give them somewhere to go, and give them something to do, really. A lot of them get pretty bored, so when they get bored, what do? That's the only thing they know. They go thieving stuff and drinking and hiding shit and carrying on, A lot of them, they might run in there with a cop chasing. But you're just trying to break the cycle, really, I suppose. That's all. Like Bernie Shankshaft started it years ago, a good mate of mine. And I sort of, it was mainly Dorso. He's another bloke that's sort of done a lot for that. And he said, mate, why don't you come and do a bit here? Like, it'll be bloody great, So that's sort of, I know Bernie fairly well, so that's what sort of got me into it. Yeah, and they do a lot with dogs, see, so which suits me because I'm sort of half dog mad. So we do a lot of stuff that with them, muck around playing with dogs and working dogs. Everywhere you go, you can cut a dog. So my life now, everywhere I go, I can have a dog with me. So I was saying, you don't take them, you don't make them. So it's pretty good that way. But yeah, like you don't win over all of them. Like some of them always default back to the bloody drugs and easy life, but some of them pull through. Yeah, a lot of them pull through actually. Yeah, you just got to keep the system with them. Like some days you might just take one. You think, well, it's one on one day today, or you might take 5 by yourself, or you might, take 5 with 2 people. All depends on what you got, and you got to have a bit of a handle on them too. That's about what Backtrack's about, yeah.
No, that's cool, mate, and hats off to you for getting involved in that. I know it's not an easy task all the time as well.
Oh, mate, it has its days. Don't worry about that. They start smashing windows in the back of the troopy, and you think, oh, God, it's all erupted. There's a big fight in the back, and you pull up the highway, and you open the doors and dragging them out, and there's cars pull up. You're right, mate. Yeah, keep going. You have some bad days with them. But no, most of it, 90% of it's pretty good with them, yeah. They're all right. Bloody hell.
That's awesome, mate. Well, it's come to that time, mate. Was there a question that stood out for you today? And I'll win a bag of Enduro high-energy food for working dogs with Rural Kangaroo, mate?
Mate, what were the questions again, real quick?
There was bond, cast, your line. There's a couple there from Zach about selecting a pup.
And finding cattle in the bush.
Finding cattle in the bush.
Yep.
A couple of other ones there.
probably selecting your pup. That's the biggest thing. Pup selection. Like if you want a dog, one day you've got to get the pup. It's selecting your pup to whoever said that one. Pup selection.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Zach, we'll get his details off him, and get that back into jury sorted.
But that's the main thing, though. You've got to, if you want a dog, you've got to get a pup first. So you've got to select that right one. And the bond's another good one too. If you got a broken bag there.
No, mate. Well, thanks for being our guest today, and don't worry, there's a bag of feed coming your way as well. And Zach, we'll grab your details. Actually, I think we got your details there. A bag of dog feed coming your way.
All right,
before we go, one last question. Would you rather fight 20 horses the size of ducks or one duck the size of a horse?
One duck the size of a horse.
Why is that?
Bigger are, the harder they fall.
Beautiful.
Well, we've got to say something, eh? It's like the dog's desire. You just got to do something, whether it's wrong or not, do something.
Milo, thank you very much for your time this evening, mate. It's much appreciated.
No worries.
Thank you.
And to everyone that's listening back to this, please remember we learn every day, and the day we stop learning will be a sad one for all of us.
Righto, it is, isn't it?
It is. Thanks, Milo.
Right, good on you. Catch you later.
Cheers, mate.